So I'd like to introduce our next speaker. And I mentioned at the beginning that equity, diversity, inclusion, accessibility is something that is absolutely important. And quite honestly, I would say it's as important as anything else that we're doing in this community, certainly in my institute, but arguably in the entire community. Being open, bringing in people who haven't had a chance to participate is extremely important. And I can envision a much better future because of some of the actions that we're starting to take. So, and because of that, we have several plenary speakers, and the first one is a very dear friend of mine for many, many years, Donald James. Donald had a 35-year NASA career. He started as a presidential management intern at Goddard, transferred to Ames in 1984. He and I were both in the Senior Executive Service Career Development Program, the same cohort back in 2004. He was selected to be the Associate Administrator for Education for NASA in 2014, and he retired from NASA in 2017. He's now a published author. His book is Manners Will Take You Where Brains and Money Won't, Wisdom from Mama and 35 Years at NASA. And his talk is going to be on diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism at NASA. So Donald, please take it away.
Thank you very much. Just a quick sound check. Everything sounds good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm going to put up my slide. I just have two. Sure. Okay, so you should be seeing the main slide there. So Greg, I really applaud your leadership on this important topic and bringing it to the forefront of this forum. And I really appreciate all the participants who are thinking about these important matters. As I listened to some of the previous presenters, the one thing I know is the common denominator about everything that we have done on the moon, we are going to do on the moon and other planetary bodies, is that it involves human beings that have to work together, and human beings that have to be included. And so I'm approaching our topic today through the lens of my deep curiosity, interest, and experience in the topic of manners. And my brief remarks are based on the recent book that I just published that Greg mentioned. So with my younger brother, Dennis, you can see here in the cockpit with my superimposed book between us. My younger brother, my collaborator, is a captain with American Airlines. He's, as we speak, being trained to fly in the 787s. And both of us had long early interest in aerospace, and as well as inspiring students to get interested in the field. And so we wrote this book for students and early career professionals to share our thoughts on what we thought it takes to have a meaningful and fulfilling career. And it's an integration of my NASA experience and all the training I've had both inside and outside of NASA, as well as the wisdom that I learned from our mother. And I have concluded, especially with respect to inclusion, and that is the piece of this that I'm going to focus on, is that our manners are a highly influential variable in causing others to be and to feel included. And I'm using the word others deliberately to underscore the challenge we face in authentically connecting with people who are not in our, as the saying goes, our tribe. Inclusion really is a manners matter. So my definition of matter starts with the outward expression of our way of thinking and being. Our manner is what and how we do, say, express, or convey something. Our manner is the outcome of our experiences, beliefs, culture, opinions, or convictions, and it includes verbal and nonverbal communications. So manners is not just what is commonly thought of as etiquette or politeness. the please and thank you stuff. And there's a place for that. And I believe pleasantries, civility, and respectful behavior is important if it is authentic. At this point, I'm going to ask you to try on what I call a pink suit. It happens to be the title of chapter 4 in the book. And pink suits are a metaphor, and they are meant to encourage trying something on that you might not otherwise try. And this is where you may be uncomfortable or feeling self-conscious if you wear the proverbial suit. And the pink suit I'm asking you to try on today is this. For organizations to improve their I, or their inclusion, I submit that people in the organization must work on their manners. This is my hypothesis. And this hypothesis comes from my 35 years at NASA, all the training I've had, and things, as I said, that I learned from my mother. And it also comes from my wearing a lot of metaphorical pink suits. Let me share a quick story to illustrate my point. And I'm going to deliberately use non-gender specific pronouns here. I've taken liberties with some of the facts to clarify the messages, but the story is true. I had a colleague who, by most accounts, was a solid engineer. As part of their professional development, they accepted an opportunity to direct a program for college-level students and early career professionals from multiple countries. A diverse group of mostly non-American young professionals, many who had worked the same program for years, was responsible for day-to-day operations. Unfortunately, my colleague didn't work out very well. There was something about their manner that rubbed the organization's staff the wrong way, and I was dispatched to the program's location to see if I could help. When I interviewed several of the staff, one message I heard clearly stood out. They said the NASA person did not listen. The staff also complained that the person presented rather arrogantly. And one person literally said to me, Donald, I just do not feel included. It is as if my experience and views don't matter. Later, I spoke to my colleague about this. They were eager to deluge me with their complaints about them and their attitudes and work ethic. And they included references to their nationality as if that explained part of the problem. These people, they complained, don't get what I'm doing or respect that I'm in charge. After my colleague went on for a while, I stopped them and asked this question. Well, with respect to the program and what you want to accomplish, is it more important for you to be right about your views or to be successful? To my surprise, my colleague quickly replied, well, I know I'm right, and they just don't get it. My colleague, as smart as they were, had a manners problem. So my message is this, and this is what I tell students and early career professionals all the time. Being smart isn't good enough to be successful. Just like manners is not simply politeness and etiquette, inclusion is not simply adding to the invite list with a diverse cohort for good optics. When you include, as I see it, you are first and foremost engaging what I call presence listening. It's a listening that goes just beyond the well-understood practice of active listening, where you train yourself to hear someone and then paraphrase back to them their point. If the speaker says, I feel heard, then active listening has been successful. Presence listening asks us to go a bit deeper, to go beyond the words that are spoken or perhaps not spoken. Presence listening is searching for something that may not be obvious or readily communicated. Presence listening is empathy, where you seek to truly see and sometimes experience the world as others do. Now, if we were all like Mr. Spock with Vulcan mind meld powers, our task would be easy. Since we don't have those powers, presence listening gets us closer to capturing the signals we receive from others, including what they say, to get who they are and where they are coming from, and most importantly, what they can bring to the table or the project or the science mission. Perhaps it's a pink suit. So as I see it, a healthy functional work environment is one in which inclusion is the proactive manner in which one engages others. We approach our desire to understand colleagues the same way we approach a science investigation. We have great questions. We have rapt curiosity, tenacious investigation, and a commitment to let the data drive our understanding and conclusions. And the aha moments here can be life-changing. As I see it, of all the letters in DE and I, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as important, as critical as diversity and equity are, if you don't get your I right, if we don't work on our manners, then we will likely place our success on the sacrificial altar of our righteousness, our ignorance, or indifference. Successful exploration for good of humanity really requires that we include. So I appreciate being included in this conversation. I know it's different than a lot of others, but if we get this right, our exploration is going to be outstanding. And so, Greg, once again, my friend, thank you for the privilege to be included in this.
Thank you so much, Donald. What an inspiring talk. And I can tell everyone online, having been your friend, Donald, for 30 years, maybe something on that order, that you practice what you preach. You have always been someone who listens as well or better than anyone I know, and what a great framework to approach this problem. You know, to treat everyone as humans, to be kind, and like you say so well, to listen. I love your Star Trek reference, and I'm reminded of, I think, twice when Nichelle Nichols visited Ames, and she is the same kind of person. She felt very present, and just a absolutely wonderful person who helped NASA beyond inspiring people like another friend of mine, Mae Jemison. So anyway, thank you so much. And I'd like to open this to questions. If anyone has anything for Donald or relevant comments. Getting a lot of positive feedback in chat, and I've gotten a bunch of texts as well. So we have a question from one of the Science Organizing Committee co-chairs, Parvati Prem. Mr. James, thank you so much for a great talk. Could you comment on the role that power dynamics play in manners? Parentheses, e.g., I feel that sometimes the expectations we have for manners from those with less power are different, not always in a way that's fair.
Thank you for the question. And you're absolutely correct. The power differentials that you see in organizations are always really internalized by both the people who have the power and perceived power and those that don't. And so I believe it's incumbent upon those of us, and I learned this when I became Associate Administrator for Education, and I didn't always, I know that I didn't always execute well, or I wrote this book for myself to remind myself of what's important, that to be empathetic and to establish rapport with people from all parts of the organization and engage them and include them deeply is very, very important. When you're on the other end, I think about, my mom had a set of rules and I put them in the book, and, rule number 2 is what other people think of you is none of your business. I really have to remind myself of that sometimes when I get concerned about, what people might think about me and all of that. And so it's really a call for each individual to step up what I call their manners game, manners really broadly speaking, and power dynamics and those labels that you're talking about absolutely are a part of that. That's why I wanted to focus on these issues. But yeah, it's a great question. And I think as an individual, my suggestion is, this is what I tell a lot of parents, please just be a role model and work on your own manners. Don't just hand the book to your kids and say, here, read this. You might need this sometimes. They probably aren't going to do it. And it might not work for a boss or somebody who's playing those games, but you how you respond to that is a manners matter. And so I would suggest that you keep cultivating your ability to respond to that in a way where you're not taking it personally and what they think about you doesn't really matter anymore. That would be my first one.
That being said, I do recommend reading this book to everyone, though. So it's excellent. So there's another question. We might have time for one or two more, but this one's from Jay Greer. How do we track or evaluate that we are succeeding with positive outcomes from changing manners?
Well, for me personally, it's probably going to happen long after I'm gone, because my metric is that an early career professional, upon her retirement at their retirement party, will say, one of the things that really changed my life was reading this book. And so I hope that's the case, right? Or maybe they don't even have to point to it, but as long as they found a way to navigate their way forward by cultivating this, I would be happy. I don't, this work is not a work of scholarship. I want to just acknowledge that. This is just my experiences and my views and my training. I haven't thought about, I just want to instigate a manners renaissance, and I hope that it evolves. And over time, perhaps the way we interact with each other and how we view, quote unquote, the others and our civility, people will just sense that it gets better. But I think it's going to be glacial, but I'm willing to do my part.
Yeah, and already are in a big way, I would add.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
We have time for perhaps, let's see, here's one from Elizabeth Fisher. Hi, Donald. I know that a common tactic for trying to protect individuals, at least in grad school, from bosses who aren't understanding, is to try and diffuse the power. Do you think that this is an effective strategy for mitigating the influence of the person with bad manners? Thanks.
I'm not sure. This is not easy stuff. Somewhere in the book I talk about, and I hate to use the term red lines because it's kind of gotten politicized, but when I'm engaging with somebody, if I feel that my personal red line has been crossed in any manner, then I'm going to speak up and say something. But it's a calculus that I have to make in terms of what might happen. I know a senior NASA executive that was called the N word, and he chose to physically respond to the person, and that person the person who hit the other person lost his job. His calculus was it didn't matter, the person crossed the red line. I'm not sure what I would do in a similar circumstance, and so I'm a believer in role modeling and showing how you would exemplify great manners to the point where others want to emulate you. But at the same time, if you're in a situation where your personal space or your boundaries have been crossed, I absolutely believe you have to be willing to risk something to say that's not okay. And I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. But it's hard. I get it. And I appreciate the question. And if you learn tricks to this, please let me know.
I might like to add to Elizabeth's question that there are those of us who can serve as your ally, who might be in different organizations, who might be at a equivalent power level to your boss, and feel free to contact us. I've made this offer to others. I'm sure, Donald, that you have done that as well.
Yeah, I can't say enough about that. Cultivating your allies, I call them intelligence operatives in the agency. By the time I got to NASA headquarters, they were all over the place, and I would go to them. And what they served for me was a read about the culture in the organization. Even though I'd been with the agency for a long time, I never worked at NASA headquarters. So the very first thing I did my first day in the job is I went to my friend Dwayne and I said, Dwayne, what do I have to do to stay out of the doghouse here? And he knew exactly what I was talking about. So I trusted somebody to say, okay, here's what I would suggest. Here are the people to talk to. And I went and talked to every person that he suggested. So by the time something quote unquote bad happens, and if you read the book, something really bad did happen to me, I felt confident that the people who knew me well and really understood my manner felt that they could support me and be an ally. And so I think that is critical. You have to do that work first before you really need it. Thanks, Fred. Great point. Great ad.
Excellent, excellent. And I see a comment from Carolyn along the very much the same line. Allies are critical. That's for sure. We of like minds need to stick together, especially in tough times.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I'm not seeing any more questions. So, Donald, thank you so much for just a really wonderful perspective, and one that I'm certainly going to carry with me, and I know a lot of us will as well. So, really appreciate this talk, and I want to let everyone know again that there will be other EDI focused talks in a couple of days, and so I look forward to those as well. But thank you so much for drawing upon your 35 years with NASA and your new literary career, and we'll post an address for Donald's book as well. So
just put in the chat my email address. Anybody, please feel free to reach out to me and contact me or go through the website. I'm happy to talk to anybody. So
great. Okay. Thank you, my friend.